this is a big country, as we all know, and the schools rowing is very regional. And so you have Gauteng events and Western Cape events, Eastern Cape events, Natal, KZN events. And so there are probably 3 events where all the schools compete nationally against each other. And the other ones are all the 2K events. And so this is the big prestigious national river race event. And it's modelled on the Oxford-Cambridge Bridge Race. So it's over 6.5 Ks. And it's an event which is the most prestigious one to win, probably.
Pushing on. Right there. Good.
Saturday saw the crews race against the clock in the time trials to determine the running order for the finals on Sunday. Starting orders determined champions and multiple winners, St Mary's, considered the best girls crew in the country, were first off and looking in top racing condition. They were definitely out for a win. Second off in the time trial was the St Andrews team, who won silver in the past 2 finals, second behind St Mary's. Would this be their year?
Neutral has been phenomenal. They sense the educational value of the sport and they're trying to include.
Is the national championship for the endurance event for South African schools. I think that we're in for a great weekend of racing. There's key to bring that to the sport, whereas there is an older generation that are running the officiating side of things.
The girls' A final would be contested by Diocesanes and St Andrews, who won the toss and chose the East Bank. Eddie at 2, Taylor at 3, Norton at stroke, and McBride at cox, with coach Bruce Morris. Tensions were running high as the finals got underway, with St Andrews on the East Bank and hungry for that elusive win. Diocesanes were there for the first time and ready to give it all they had. The wind had dropped slightly, but the water level was low, which meant the teams would need to avoid the many sandbanks along the route. They were neck and neck, with each cox having to do plenty of motivating and encouraging of their teams. The humid and breezy conditions were making the water choppy and proving a huge challenge for the girls to contend with. St Andrews definitely had more experience going into the final, having been there twice before. But was that going to be enough to keep the diocesan team at bay? Coaches and officials looked on in anticipation, watching each team's every move. The race for the title was definitely on, and the pace was hotting up. With still very little to divide the 2 teams, Diocesanes decided to take the inside line on the bend, hitting a sandbank in the process and losing precious time. St Andrews' Cox McBride even had to turn around to make sure for herself. It would take extreme mental effort, as well as pure physical strength, for them to catch St Andrews, let alone win the race. But it wasn't over yet. They weren't going to let the mishap affect their chances of a win. And with a few kilometers still to go, anything could happen. It was up to each cox to push her team to the limits to get results. Under the last bridge, St Andrews was still in the lead. Yet with the finish line in sight, Diocesanes managed to reel them in. But would there be enough river for them to claim victory? Marshals and race referees were on hand, watching closely to ensure the girls played by the rules and kept their lines. It was down to the last 100 meters, and St Andrews was pushing hard for the finish line and for glory. They held their line and position and crossed the line as deserved winners. Their victory had been coming for a long time, and 2010 was their year.